Welcome back to the news at 10. The Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal will deliver judgment in a suit filed by the National Assembly challenging the judgment of the Federal High Court, which set aside the amendment of the Electoral Act Bill 2018. The five-man panel of the court, led by the President of the Appeal Court, Justice Zainab Bulkachua, adjourned for judgment on the date to be communicated to the parties. In his submission, counsel to the National Assembly, Mr. Joseph Daudu, asked the court to discountenance a letter by the Attorney General of the Federation stating that the events have already been overtaken by the submission of a fresh bill to the President for assent. Responding, however, counsel to the Accord Party, Mr. Wole Olanikpekun, asked the court to dismiss the appeal on the grounds that it has become an academic exercise given the new developments regarding the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The Federal High Court has sided with the Accord Party in a suit filed urging President Muhammadu Buhari not to sign into law the amended Electoral Act Bill 2018, reordering the election sequence in Nigeria, on the grounds that the National Assembly lacks the powers to decide on the sequence of the election on behalf of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Residents of Ungo and Isugo in Enugu State, southeast Nigeria, are happy with the construction of some important roads in the community. The 12-kilometre stretch of road, which includes a bridge, was in a deplorable state before the state government's intervention 6 months ago.
It's a happy crowd out to welcome the Enugu State Governor on his arrival to commission some newly constructed roads. The road, stretching from 9th Mile to the New Market, had suffered neglect since it was first constructed in 1928 during the colonial days. This resident of Ungwo captures the prevailing sentiment.
This road is not only for Ungwo. You have saved the people of Enugu State, because as soon as they closed this road, we lost a lot of lives at Ungwo Yama. You can now drive through Medview Hill at night, 2-3 a.m. in the morning, without being afraid.
And so, the different sections of road are commissioned. Nowhere is this transformation more significant for the residents than at the 3-kilometre section of Milliken Hill, which is integral to the history of Enugu and has been reconstructed for the first time 90 years after being built.
Here today with joy in my heart, bold by the happy faces of Enugu here present. We commissioned this reconstructed historic and legacy-making Hill Road, a renowned tourist attraction whose history is consistent with coal discovery in our state in the early 20th century. In Enugu, no road in our environment affords tourists and motorists the beautiful view of Enugu that is this road offers.
Residents expect life to change for the better.
He saw our plight and know there are industries, poultry farms and economic boom in this area and came to our rescue.
For the governor and residents of Ungwo and Isiuzo, the rural areas have been opened up for business, which will translate to economic growth in Enugu State.
Medview Airline has received its newly acquired Boeing 777 to join its fleet. The airline touched down at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport earlier today and is fully owned by the airline. The delivery of the plane is a dream come true for Medview since it suspended international operations in April this year.
In April this year, one of Nigeria's major carriers, Medview Airline, suspended its international operations when it returned the leased Boeing 777 and 737-800. It's barely 3 months, and the airline receives its newly acquired Boeing 777-200ER to boost its fleet. The aircraft, which has a capacity to seat 323 passengers with 38 in business class, is wholly owned by Medview.
Over the years, we've been leasing the aircraft for Hajj, for international operations, which have consumed much of our foreign reserve. So this year, at the beginning of this year, it was one of our dreams that will be the end of leasing. Aircraft for bigger operations like London, you know the cost. When you lease, you invest so much money, both the capital and the equipment, and you don't get something in return because the money goes out of the economy. So we give this opportunity to wish ourselves the God Almighty support. And First Bank, I need to mention them to you. In the wake of challenges, we have to address it with the bank. And First Bank, for the purpose of record, give us a 10% reserve.
The airline announces its plans to deploy jumbo jets for its Hajj operations when it begins the airlifts of pilgrims to Mecca and Medina.
We are operating from 6 airports. We are operating from Lagos, we are operating from Kaduna, we are operating from Kano, we are operating from Ilorin, we are operating from Port Harcourt, and we are operating from Medview.
On the issue of value-added taxes for airline operators, here's what the Medview boss has to say.
Anywhere in the world, all these charges, taxes kill the business. So the government is being magnanimous to remove the VAT. It's the best thing to have happened.
The airline says it's expecting 2 more aircraft to join its fleet anytime soon to boost operations locally and internationally.
Let's take a look at business news now. Here's Anne Nwaudu.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma, and welcome to Business News. The federal government has concluded plans to engage additional 300,000 beneficiaries in the second batch of its N-Power volunteer call. The senior special assistant to the Vice President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Laolu Akode, who disclosed this in Abuja today, explains that with this, a total of 500,000 unemployed Nigerian graduates will be beneficiaries of the scheme with effect from August the 1st. He says the final selection list in all states and local government areas for each of the 3 N-Power components will be circulated tomorrow, Friday the 20th. The N-Power Volunteer Corps scheme was designed by the federal government to benefit all Nigerians through training and skills acquisition. Pan-African banking group EcoBank Transnational Incorporated today released its unaudited interim financial statement for the first half of this year. That statement shows gross earnings dropped by 1% to 384.6 billion naira from 386.8 billion naira in its first half of last year. On the other hand, the group's profit before tax increased by 41% to 65.1 billion naira from 46.2 billion naira, while profit after tax rose by 37% to 51.6 billion as against 37.7 billion it posted in the same period last year. South Africa's central bank is keeping its benchmark repo rate unchanged at 6.5%, and that's after a unanimous decision by members of the Monetary Policy Committee citing risks of inflation. The governor of the Reserve Bank, Leseta Ganyago, says that although inflation is comfortably within the target band, there are indications that the country has passed the low point of the current cycle. In the meantime, latest data from the country's statistics office also shows headline consumer inflation rose to 4.6% in the month of June, but well within the central bank's target of between 3 and 6%. The loss in Nigeria's stock market has continued for a 4th time this week, with the consumer goods sector as the only main factor behind the market's decline today. For more, let's join Chimeze Obiwago.
Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us on Stock Market Report. The respite traders and investors were looking for at the equities market would have happened today, but for the sell-off in the consumer goods sector. The market was looking good until few minutes to the close when Nestle and International Breweries took a beating, which dragged the all-share index further down by 0.76%. Interestingly, the oil and gas sector, which has been on the downward trajectory since Monday, gained the most, with O&O adding 45 kobo to its share price, rising by 9.47%. The positive sentiment towards the oil and gas sector was as a result of the news of the 348 billion naira subsidy approved by the Senate. GT Bank pulled the highest volume and value, pushing the total transactions up at 296.5 million shares and 4 billion naira in value. The trading week ends tomorrow. Perhaps that might be the start of a rebound for the market. And that was the stock market report. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.
I'll definitely be waiting to see if that happens. Thanks a lot, Chimeze. U.S. President Donald Trump's criticism of Federal Reserve over interest rate hike might have caused some negative sentiments in major global equity markets. Let's see how they all ended the day. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawodu. It's back to you, Joma.
You First. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Anne. A recent economic impact survey of United States companies operating in Nigeria indicates that such business interests have contributed an estimated 111 billion naira to the nation's tax revenue in 2017. The details of this are contained in a report presented by the American Business Council in Lagos in collaboration with the U.S. Embassy after a survey conducted to assess the overall economic impact of U.S. companies here in Nigeria.
For the second year, the American Business Council has conducted a survey on the economic impact of American companies operating in Nigeria, as well as to gauge the advantages and challenges of doing business in the country.
The survey reflects a contribution of 74 American companies operating in Nigeria, and the responses reinforce the role of the United States plays in the economic health of Nigeria in many areas, among them job creation, investments in training and education, tax contribution, corporate social responsibilities, and many others.
Major highlights of the survey show that a revenue of over 2.6 trillion naira was generated in 2017 against 1 trillion naira in 2016, with a total tax contribution of over 100 billion naira to the states and the federal government. Approximately 11,200 indirect jobs and over 9,000 full-time jobs were created by the surveyed companies, representing a substantial 70 and 72% growth from 2016. Also, foreign direct investment inflows from the United States to Nigeria in 2017 is estimated to be $1.3 billion. While about 52% of these companies identify Nigeria as a regional hub for their operations in West Africa, they say specific industry, regulatory and business environment challenges still require attention.
Critical issues that impact the business operations of the surveyed U.S. companies in Nigeria include labor, the training of university graduates and union issues, local content challenges, and the prevailing crime and security concerns.
Despite these challenges, surveyed participants are still confident of doing business in Nigeria.
We view ourselves as an important member of the public-private partnership that is required to continue to grow and develop our economy.
The American Business Council says the responses from the survey will enable it further engage the government and business regulators to improve the ease of doing business for its members in Nigeria.
An appeal has gone out to the National Boundary Commission to speed up the process of demarcating territorial boundaries between Edo and Delta states, as contained in a communique issued at the end of the interstate boundary meeting held in Benin City, the Edo state capital. The Stakeholder Summit, which featured a high-powered delegation from each state, led by the representative deputy governors, is part of continued efforts to find a solution to the protracted Edo Delta boundary disputes. Still ahead on the news at 10, International Basketball Federation suspends 13 players after on-court brawls during a 2019 World Cup qualifying tie between the Philippines and Australia on July the 2nd. That's on sports. Just stay with us.